most of his jokes early on was about his family and specifically about his mom. And then when his mom dies and they're at the funeral and they say if anybody wants to get up and talk, and at first Buddy wants Stan to do it, and then Stan, everybody's pretty much like, no, Buddy, this is your thing. And he gets up and he's, of course, opens with some jokes about his mom. When I first heard that she died, my first thought was, did we get a recipe for kibble?
Right.
And he gets a laugh, and then he kind of, he does his Buddy Young Jr. thing, but then all of a sudden you see that thick skin just taken off and set aside, and he's like, he was talking about how she has these big arms, these curtains, flaps and stuff, and he's like, but when you were in her arms, there was never a greater place to be. And then you just see him taking that thick shell off.
What can you say about someone who gave you life? You know, my brother Stan first told me that our mother had passed away. My first thought was, did you get her recipe for kugel? The woman lived in the kitchen. Seriously, she had a bed put in there and everything, and until I was 15, I thought my name was Taste This. To blow my nose and gravy would come out. Yeah. She was everything for us. She cooked for us, she cleaned for us. She had sex with our father. I'm sure that was no picnic. Remember the arms on her? She had these gigantic arms that they weighed more than me and you, Stan. They did. They were like flesh curtains, these arms. Looked like the Jewish Batman, just this big cape. When she waved goodbye, sounded like 5 people applauding. When we were kids, we could sneak into the movie theater, hiding behind those arms. The Lowe's Pitkin in Brooklyn. Am I right, Stan? Remember? But when she held you in those arms, it was the safest place in the world to be. I loved making her laugh. Because she had this laugh. Big, big beauty laugh, It would hit you like a wave at Coney Island. I've done a lot of things in my life that, but I know that I made my mother laugh. She was 91, and she went too soon.
One of the greatest things in life, and I even think about this now as my parents are getting older. And Buddy says this, he goes, of all the things I've done, one thing I can proudly say is I made my mother laugh. Like, I made her laugh. And I have that relationship with my mom. One of my favorite things to do is make my mom laugh. Even, to this day, just hearing my mom laugh at something I say is better than, a 3,000 seat theater laughing, at my booger jokes or, whatever. Like, it's like hearing my mom laugh at my booger jokes. Like, that's where it's at. That's the big thing. And you see that kind of softness all of a sudden start emerging. And you also kind of see him, if you really have a trained comic eye, you can see him kind of wrestling with oh, I shouldn't be this vulnerable. But as he starts to do it, he's like, no, this is comfortable. This is good. And you just see him soften.